WALN, the Party Channel. My name is Ned Richards, and this is the very first decade of rock and roll. And we are here till 1 a.m. on the Eastern time schedule here tonight. And I want to wish and thank everybody for tuning in, especially all of our Service Electric television people. And they're saying, well, in the 5 figures tonight. And you know why everybody's tuned in? Because they are ready to hear from this icon of great rock and roll music of all time, and I am talking about the lovely Miss Diane Renay. Diane, I am very humble and very proud to have you on my show this evening.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, let's talk about your career as when you started. And how old were you at the time that you said, boy, you know what, I'm going to be a rock and roll singer?
Well, I started singing when I was a real little girl, and I always knew that I wanted to sing. By the time I was 12, I started taking lessons with a singing teacher in Philadelphia by the name of Artie Singer. And Artie Singer was the manager of Danny and the Juniors. He also wrote at the Hop, and he worked with Bobby Rydell and a lot of other big artists that came out of Philadelphia. And one day after a lesson, he said to me, you know, Diane, when you get older, you should make a record. And that's all I had to hear, because after that, I drove my parents crazy. I want to cut a record. I want to cut a record. So by the time I was 14, my father had a jewelry business in Center City, Philadelphia, and he had a lot of customers in the entertainment field. But one of his customers was very good friends with record producer at the time, Pete DeAngelis. Pete, I think he did Venus, and he worked with Al Martino. So my father said, could you arrange for me to take my daughter to see Pete DeAngelis to get his opinion, to see if he thinks she has enough talent to cut a record? So this was arranged, and one Sunday afternoon, my parents drove me from Philadelphia to New Jersey to Pete DeAngelis' house, and Pete sat down and played a couple of standard songs, and I sang. And when I finished, he turned around and he said to my parents, you know, she's very talented, and I think I can get her a record deal. So what happened after that, Pete went to Atco, which was a subsidiary of Atlantic Records, and he got me a contract. And Pete produced my first session for Atco, and the results of that session was the release of the old song, Little White Lies. I did a remake of it. And after Little White Lies came out, Atco wanted to do another session with me, so they hired Bob Crew. And at the time, Bob Crew had all of the Four Seasons sessions. He wrote Sherry, Walk Like a Man, Big Girls Don't Cry, and he was producing the Four Seasons. And I met Bob Crew, and he wrote a song for me, and he produced it for Atco, and the second release I had was called Tender. So by this time, I was about 16 going on 17 years old. And after Tender came out, because both releases on Atco didn't hit the charts high enough, Atco decided not to renew my contract. So when that happened, Bob Crew said to my father, listen, I would like to put Diane under contract to me, and I really think that I can do some great things for her. So my father said okay, and the next session that was produced with Bob Crew was History, Navy Blue. That was my third record release, and I was still in high school, and it came out, and it was amazing. And the crazy thing is that actually, Navy Blue is the B-side of the single that was released. The A-side was a song called Unbelievable Guy. And when the record was released, there was a disc jockey in Worcester, Massachusetts. I believe his name was Bill Smith, and he flipped the record, and he loved Navy Blue, so he started to play it. And from there on, it took off like wildfire. It just started playing everywhere in the country. And I came home from school one day, and the phone rings, and Bob Cruz says to me, I have something to tell you. Are you sitting down? So I said, all right, I'll sit down. He says, you have a hit record. And I said, you're kidding me. He says, you'll never believe what song it is. And I said, unbelievable guy. He says, nope, it's Navy Blue.
Let me ask you something, Diane. When you got that phone call, and were you walking the halls of your high school, what did the kids feel anything different towards you at that point, because now you are all over the country with a #1 song?
I became an alien.
Did you really?
Yeah. I might as well have been an alien from another country, another world. The kids' reaction was very weird. They didn't know how to react to me. And I think one of the things is everybody was shocked because nobody in school knew that I could sing except maybe a couple of close friends, and we'd sing together and things like that. But no one knew I could sing, and I never participated in any school activities like the drama club or the glee club. So when all of a sudden they started hearing my records on the radio, I think everybody was shell-shocked. They were in disbelief. They couldn't believe it.
Did you have many guys wanting to be your boyfriend?
Actually, all of the boys that were my friends didn't talk to me anymore.
Really?
I had a boyfriend at the time who was in the Air Force, and he was so upset that I put a song out about the Navy that ended our relationship.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is just about unbelievable. You know, I was speaking to, I believe she was one of the, Bunny Gibson. Mm-hmm. She was one of the dancers on Dick Clark, and I interviewed her, and she said the same thing. People alienated her and didn't talk to her. And I'm hearing the same thing from you, and I find this almost unbelievable.
Yeah, well, people get funny. They feel differently towards you when you're doing something that you're out there, and I don't know how to explain it. I wasn't in their shoes. All I knew is I was in my shoes, and I couldn't wait to graduate high school, and when I did, it was such a relief.
Wow, that's almost unreal. My goodness. But, what did it feel like for the very first time when you heard Navy Blue on the radio?
It was shocking. And this is going to sound crazy, but we used to have a shortwave radio in our house. And my mother used to sit with the shortwave radio all night long to try and find my song. And sometimes it would be 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. She'd run upstairs and wake me up. Your record's on the radio. Your record's on the radio. It's playing in the United Kingdom. It's playing in Japan. I don't know. It was just nuts. It was really crazy.
Wow, that's.
But I know that when Navy Blue was at the top of the charts, the Beatles had the first 3 songs from 1 to 3 at the top of the charts. So every time I'd hear their songs, I'd hear mine.
Well, that's cool. That had to be gratifying. You put all that time and effort in taking the lessons, and then there you are. You're finally up there where the old cliche is, where the air is rare, way up on the top. Now, let me ask you a question, too, and somebody had asked me that this particular question the other day. Why did you, or was it you, or was it your managers, why did you do the Navy stuff? And that's what seems to be everybody's question. Okay.
Actually, Navy Blue was a fluke. It was not a planned thing. It was in the summer, and I was up in the mountains vacationing with my parents, and Bob Crew called me up. He says, you have to come down to New York because we're writing some material for your next session. We need to get some keys, and I need you here. So I got on a bus and went into New York City. And I get there at the office, and in one of the rooms where there was a piano, Bob was in the room, Eddie Rambeau and Bud Rehak were in the room. And Bud and Eddie were sitting at the piano, and Bob is just pacing back and forth across the floor, and he's saying, I have this title in my head, this navy blue, what can we write about navy blue? All of a sudden, I think it was Bob Rehak on the piano starts hitting the keys, bum, ba-dum, and within 20 minutes they wrote the song. I was there.
Wow.
Wrote it.
Unbelievable.
So it wasn't a planned thing. It just happened. And then after Navy Blue became such a success, Eddie Rambeau and Bud Rehak wrote me Kiss Me Sailor, which was the follow-up to Navy Blue. So that's how we got onto the Navy thing.
And, all of your albums at that particular time, you were in a Navy uniform as well.
Yes.
Did the Navy love you?
That was my idea. When I used to go to make personal appearances, I decided that I was going to dress naval. Why not? Because I was
Why not, right?
Navy.
And did you get any offers from the Navy to come and sing your particular #1 song on any of their ships, or any kind of naval functions?
Thing, but in New York, they had a big ship called the USS Harris, and they named me Miss USS Harris, and they had a big party down at the ship, and all of the disc jockeys from the big radio station in New York City, WMCA, the good guys they called them, were all down there, and they threw a party for me in the eating area, down in the ship, whatever you call that area, and they had a big cake that they made for me, Miss USS Harris, and one of the wives of the sailors made me a doll, a boy doll with all authentic material, and he's a little sailor doll. In fact, I'm looking at him right now. And you can see pictures of me with the doll. I have a Facebook, Diane Renay, R-E-N-A-Y on Facebook, and I also have a website, www.dianerenay, and there's pictures on there of me with the captain of the ship where I'm presenting him with my Navy Blue album. There's pictures of me holding the doll. There's pictures of me with all of the disc jockeys that were down there from the big radio station in New York. It was a big day for me.
Oh, I could just imagine. And you know what's nice? You still have all those great artifacts yet.
Yes, I do. I have all of them.
Wow, that's just about unreal, because I had another question here that was emailed to me, and they had asked me, could you ask Diane when you interview her tonight, what was it like on stage with thousands of kids just screaming and carrying on, and did you feel nervous when you were out there to sing your songs?
Terrified.
Really?
I used to have such anxiety before I'd go on stage. My father used to travel with me a lot. I'd be backstage. All of a sudden, my mind would go blank. I couldn't remember the lyrics to Navy Blue. And I would turn, and I'd look at my dad, and I'd say, Dad, what are the words to Navy Blue? And he'd go, oh, my God, and he'd break out profusely in a terrible sweat, and he'd turn white. Then all of a sudden, I'd hear the announcer announce my name, and they'd start playing music. I'd run out on the stage not knowing what was going to happen, and I'd hear the music start to play, and the words came out of my mouth. It was just crazy. But this would happen to me a lot.
Wow, anxiety.
Anxiety, performance anxiety. To be honest with you, I never liked live performance. It made me too nervous. I loved being in the studio. I could live in the studio because in the studio it was a very creative atmosphere. It's like a painter sitting down with a piece of canvas not knowing what he's going to paint, and all of a sudden this beautiful picture appears. So when you go into a studio, you have a song, a melody with lyrics, then all of a sudden you have musicians there, and they start playing music, and you start singing, and before you know it, you have this incredible piece of music. It's like a work of art that everybody sits back and listens to what they did. And it's like you started out with nothing, and you come out with something that's unbelievable.
You know, I feel the same way as you did, you know, going out and doing live performances. Of course, you know, I've been around a long time, 44 years in this business.
Wow.
And I've introduced quite a few acts over the years. And every time I go out on stage, I'm like you, I have an anxiety attack right before I go out. And what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? Am I going to offend anybody that I'm going to introduce by maybe not saying what I should say or whatever? But, you know, when you go out on stage, it all just gels together, and there you are.
Mm-hmm. You have no choice.
Really, you don't.
Stuck.
How many times were you on Bandstand?
Actually, Bandstand was no longer in Philadelphia by the time I got on there. It was where I think Dick Clark had the show Where the Action Is.
Right.
In L.A., and I was on that show.
Oh, okay. How was he to work with?
Dick was a real nice guy. I did 3 days at Steel Pier in Atlantic City in a show that he put on. I shared a dressing room with Diana Ross and the Supremes. They were on the show. That picture, by the way, of me with the Supremes is on my Facebook and on my website.
Oh, okay.
And that was quite an experience. We had a small dressing room, and here we are, the three of them and the one of me, and Diana Ross's mother was in there too. She's sitting in the corner sewing them costumes.
Really?
Really.
Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. But that's show business.
Yeah, it is.
Do you still tour?
No, I don't perform anymore. Some years ago, I was back east and I did 3 days at an event called Old Time Radio, and that was fun. It was a lot of fun. I did a little bit of performing, met a lot of people, signed autographs, and it was, you know, very enjoyable. But what happened is the day I was supposed to leave to come home, I got to the airport at about 8 o'clock at night, and at that time they were having very bad fires in California. The fires were so bad that the smoke just was all over the southwest of the country. So I'm sitting in the airport, and all of a sudden I hear all flights to California, Las Vegas, which is where I was going, are canceled until tomorrow because of the fires. So I had no place to go. I sat there in the airport from 8 o'clock at night until 7 o'clock the following morning. The airport became deserted. I was sitting there by myself, surrounded by so much luggage that I couldn't even leave it to go to the ladies' room. And the only person that was in the airport was the janitor who was washing the floors. And I sat there and I thought to myself, this is crazy. You're never doing this again. This is it. This is it. And that was it. And that was the last time I decided to go out and do any more performing. I just thought to myself, you had enough, and at this stage of your life, you don't need to be doing this, sitting in an airport.
Right, I can understand that.
Middle of the night.
I can understand that, but I'm sure many, many of your loyal fans would just, you know, love to see you up on stage one more time, including myself.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. The traveling is too tough. I just don't have it in me to do it anymore. I mean, I think it's a lot easier for men because men don't have to take so much clothes with them, and they take a couple of suits or whatever they're wearing. A woman is different. You have to take so many things with you. You need so much luggage to travel, and it's hard.
I could imagine. I could
Very
really
hard.
imagine.
Also, when you're a woman, you usually need to have a companion. You're not going to want to be traveling by yourself.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on now. And you now have recorded a new album?
I have a double CD that I put together It's composed of a lot of songs from the 60s, a lot that were never released. And then during the 1980s, I went back into the studio and did some recording, and these songs were never released. In fact, I did a dance version of Navy Blue, which is really good. I mean, it's really, really good. It's fun to listen to. It's like a dance club type
right.
Navy Blue version. And there's also some songs on the double CD that I wrote, which is something that I never did when I was younger. So I think, you know, people would enjoy listening to the variety of music that's on the double CD because it's all very different. And the CD is available on Amazon, it's available on iTunes, it's available on CD Baby and other music sites. In fact, it's called Diane Renay Sings Some Things Old and Some Things New. And if they go to these music sites, you can listen to sound bites of each song so you can hear what, you know, each song sounds like. In fact, on my website, the album is on there, and you can listen to samples of all of the songs, too. I also have out a new Navy Blue album. It's called Navy Blue 25 Super Tracks. And what it is, it's all of the original 12 tracks that were on the Navy Blue album. And then there's about, 13 other tracks on there of songs that were never released before from the 60s. And it's very interesting. There are videos of both CDs on my Facebook of the new Navy Blue album and the double CD. There are two different videos where you can watch the videos and hear a little bit of each, some of the songs that are on them. And the videos are also on my website.
And, you know, people can friend you on on Facebook. So to all my viewers out there in Service Electric TV land and on the internet that are tuned in tonight, just go to Diane Renay, DianeRenay, and just maybe post a little message. Hey, I heard you on Ned's show tonight, and would you be my friend? And, of course, you know, that's how we all stay in contact with each other.
That's true. I've only had this Facebook for a short time, maybe a couple of weeks. My daughter has been after me to do a Facebook for a long time, and I just said to her, look, I'm not computer savvy, and I don't want to do this. And finally, my friend Ronnie Allen, hi Ronnie, who's my webmaster, said, look, Diane, you have to do Facebook. And I said, okay, will you help me put it together? And he says, absolutely. So we did the Facebook. And since then, I have a lot of friends, a lot of new friends. It's unbelievable. There are people that have contacted me from my past, people from school, people that I knew in the music business from the 60s, and it's like incredible. I'm just shocked.
It is a fascinating tool.
Yes, it is.
It really is. And yes, Ronnie Allen is on our chat room as we speak, and he's been, you know, telling the people all about you and the CDs that are out, and they can be bought right now. They are ready to be put out, correct?
Yes. The Navy Blue 25 Super Tracks is downloadable.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's downloadable on all the music sites. The double CD, Some Things Old and Some Things New, the album is available for downloading, but there's also a physical album that you can actually buy.
Okay.
So you can do it either way.
Let me ask you this. You said you have a daughter, correct? Do you have any other children?
No, just one daughter.
What does she feel like when people come up to her and say, is your mom really Diane Renay?
Well, you know what? They don't even know who the Beatles were, my daughter's generation, believe it or not. But she had an experience. Some years ago, I did a show for the veterans of foreign wars in San Antonio, Texas, and I She lives in Florida, and I live in Las Vegas. So I flew her in to San Antonio, and she met me at the hotel and went to the show with me. And no one told the veterans, it was not advertised that I was going to be at the show. It was a surprise. So she was sitting in the front row. And when my music started playing and I came out on the stage, all dressed in my naval outfit with the sailor hat and the whole bit, people started running up from the audience taking pictures of me. And my daughter was so astounded that she started taking pictures of the people who were taking pictures of me. She couldn't believe it.
Oh, my gosh. I bet you she was so proud, though.
Yes, she was shocked. I mean, she really was. I mean, she knew that Mommy cut records and Mommy had some hit records, but like I said, her generation, they didn't even know who the Beatles were.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's the way it is, you know. But you know what? I do feel this, and maybe you can agree with me. Even on television here, we have a lot of younger people watching this, and we have a lot of younger people coming to the concerts as well. Do you think there is kind of like a resurgence in these oldies and the performing acts?
I don't really know, but I can tell you one thing, that I do get quite a bit of email from young people that are like 19, in their early 20s, that tell me that they're big fans of my music and they love the 60s music and the girl group music, and I'm like really shocked. I really am. So, you know, there is a percentage of young people out there that love the oldies music. In fact, one person had said to me, I wish that I had been born during your generation so I could have grown up with all that great music.
I've had a question from one of the producers here. They had asked, could you ask Diane if she ever met like the other gal singers like Leslie Gore?
I worked with Leslie Gore. I worked with Linda Scott. I worked with, I said, the Supremes, the Angels. I worked with so many people. I can't even remember so many of the artists that I worked with. But I worked with about everybody at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Was the traveling back then very trying?
It was awful. And I hated to fly. I had a very bad experience with flying. I did a TV show up in Pittsburgh. I think the name of the disc jockey was Clark Gregg, and it was a Saturday. His TV show was a Saturday, and Bobby Goldsboro and Lou Christie were both on the show with me. So after the show was over, the disc jockey says, listen, kids, I have a record hop that I fly all my artists to for Saturday night to the next date. And I'm going, wait a second, what? And he has this little one-engine plane, and he has his own pilot. And I really didn't want to go, but, you know, you're sort of like in a spot to do this favor for the disc jockey. He had you on his television show, so he said, look, don't worry, I've flown so many artists over to this show that it's a piece of cake, everything's safe. So I went reluctantly. We're up in the air about a half hour, and the whole cabin starts getting smoky in there. And I hear the pilot saying real low, Mayday, Mayday, small aircraft in trouble. All of a sudden, the disc jockey turns around and he says, kids, we're having a little bit of trouble with the plane, so just hang in there. So all of a sudden, the plane starts sputtering and dropping, and I saw my whole life go in front of me, and holding on to Lou Christie. He was sitting next to me. I have my arms wrapped around his arm, and he's doing Hail Mary, oh God, please save.
I'll bet he was.
Bobby Goldsboro is sitting in the back there making his cricket sound, saying, wow, we're all going to have memorial albums like Patsy Cline, the Big Bopper, and Buddy Holly. And I turned around at that point, and I said to him, shut up! Shut up! And thank God, there was a small private airport that was in view of the plane, and we just glided in there, and we hit the end of the runway, and the plane just stopped dead. So they drive up in the car, and they take us all out of the plane. I was in a state of shock. They get a limousine. They drive us to this show. I go on the stage as if nothing happened, went through my act like nobody would know there was anything wrong. And after I walk off the stage, I'm in back of the stage, and I said to somebody, is there a telephone? So they show me a phone, and my father flew up to Pittsburgh with me, and he was in a hotel where we were staying. And he had the news channel on, and I called him. And just as I called him, the news channel flashed. Disc jockey Clark Grace, recording artists Bobby Goldsboro, Lou Christie, and Diane Renay were almost in a plane crash. At that moment, my father picks up the phone, and I said, Daddy, and I started crying.
Oh, my.
And he's saying to me, oh, my God, are you all right? Are you all right? And I couldn't stop crying. It was a terrible experience.
Oh, my
So
gosh.
after that, they fixed the plane. They expected me to get back on that plane to fly back to Pittsburgh, and I said, there's no way I'm getting on that plane. So because of me, they had to hire a limousine, and we all drove back to Pittsburgh in a limo. After that happened, I was so terrified of flying, even on a commercial airline, that I didn't want to go anyplace. And I went up to Bob Crew's office in New York, and he said to me, look, Diane, do you want to be in this business? I said, yes. He says, well, then you better get your butt on an airplane, you know, because you can't be in the music business unless you go places.
Oh.
So I got back on a plane, but I white-knuckled it. I mean, till this very day, I don't like flying.
Wow, that's almost unbelievable, and you know, thank God, I guess, you know, that somebody was definitely watching that airplane.
Oh, sure. I guess so, because here I am.
There you are, and here you are. And it's really, really been a superb pleasure talking with you, Diane. There's so many people here on our chat room that are just, people chat on our chat room, but then when I have a guest on, it's like silence. Everybody's listening to whomever I'm talking to. And there's one gentleman here that is our greeter, as he puts it, Andy Weaver from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. I don't even know if you know where Nazareth is. It's, right above Allentown.
Okay.
And he is, I think, your number one fan.
Oh, wow.
And he is only in his 20s.
He's only in his 20s?
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's great that he likes this kind of music.
Yes, he's a great kid. Everybody loves him. He's just really into this music and into having the stars say hello to him.
Well, I think that's great. That's really great to have young people listening to our music,
It is great. The music here that we have, you can understand, and it's fun. And, not saying that today's music isn't good or anything like that, but in your day, when you sang, you had to sing. There was no computers altering your voice or making it, into the key that it should be or whatever. You had to really sing that.
Yes, there was no getting away from it. And during the early part of rock and roll, I would say up until like the mid-'80s, the artists all strive to be themselves and have their own style of singing, their own style of writing music. Everybody was different, and you knew who was who when you heard them on the radio. And I just hate to say this, but it's not like that today. Today, the music is basically manufactured. It all sounds like it comes out of the same studio. The artists all copy each other. Unless the disc jockey says on the radio who's who, I don't know who I'm listening to.
No, you don't. And they don't say their names anymore.
No, they don't.
Versus when, we were brought up in the top 40 that, we would say, well, this is Diane Renay with Navy Blue, and we're going to follow it up with Kiss Me Sailor. Yeah, you had to tell whom the singer was. So,
right, that's true.
And it was rightly so, because, you, amongst all the other top greats, had to have your name out there. And that's what, created who you are, what created the difference between Diane Renay, Leslie Gore, and, anybody else, Little Eva or somebody else. And you needed that.
Oh, of course. What was the point of singing unless people knew who they were listening to?
Exactly. So these new CDs you have out are available now, and they're available on Amazon and
Amazon.com, iTunes.com, CDBaby.com, any other music sites where people buy music. If you go to MP3 downloads, they're usually there. Like I said, the double CD, you can actually buy the physical CD that is available, or you can download the music.
Okay, very good. Very good. And, of course, I'm going to urge all my listeners to go ahead out there and purchase that and, have that piece of history again, to relive all the great music that you put out. And, I do have one question here. They said on one of your albums, and I do have it, Soldier Boy, that you sang.
Right.
And that was, something different than all the Navy songs.
Was my interpretation of Soldier Boy.
And it's a great one, to be honest with you. I listened to it, and it's totally different than the Shirelles do it.
Yes, it is.
And it has that basic sound, but you, as Emerald Lagasse would say, kick it up a notch.
Yeah, I kicked it up a notch. It was fun singing that song. I really enjoyed it.
And we're going to be doing a couple of ones off your album, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me. We'll be doing that. And Over the Rainbow, a great one by Lenny Dell and the Dimensions.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much.
Diane, it's been a pleasure. I thank you for gracing the airways here. I'm very, very proud to have you on my show, very humble that you came on, and I think all of our listeners agree that your music was one of the best.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show, and I want to thank all your listeners for listening.
And Ronnie Allen, of course, he's still on the show here, or on the chat box here, and he's says that you really do like doing Facebook now, don't you?
Well, I sort of grew to like it,
It does grow on you.
Be hesitant about doing it. It's kind of contagious once you start doing it. You get up every day and, oh, God, I got to go to the computer and check the Facebook.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, it's terrible. In fact, when I get up, the first thing my husband says to me is, you have that Facebook look on your face.
I know sometimes, and I get yelled at too. I get up like 2 or 3 in the morning. Once you hit a certain age, for some reason or another, it's really tough to sleep the whole night through. Well, I have my tablet there, and the next thing you know, click, 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 and there we are. Or there I am looking at Facebook and, looking to see what's going on and see how many other people are addicted to this thing. And all the great psychologists in the world are all saying that Facebook is truly, truly an addiction.
Well, yeah, you can become addicted to it, that's for sure, because I have to contain myself from coming into the computer room more than 3 times a day to look at it. I just want to keep looking at it, and I flag myself at 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night, and that's it.
That's it, okay. All right, Diane, well, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate you calling or, checking in with us, talking to everybody about your history and your good times and your shaky times on that airplane. And, what your career is now going into another phase with the new CDs coming out and things like that. And, of course, we all wish you much success.
Thank you very much.
And if you ever want to come back on the stage, come back here to Allentown. I would love to introduce you on stage.
You got it.
All right, Diane. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care. God bless. Enjoy and stay healthy.